Okay, everybody, we're live, we're up, and we are excited to turn on the lights in New York City. Hi, everybody, I'm Giselle Behrens, and this is Photo TV NYC. Thanks for joining in our live tutorial for Lightroom. And today I have a very special photo, which is a dark photo taken at night at the Hudson Yards Terrace, which just opened in March 2020. So you guys can download the link down below where you can see the description of the video, or you can also choose one of your own photos to follow along with this tutorial. Also, please do remember to subscribe to this channel if you find it fun, interesting, and above all, if you learn something new. And also like the video if you do like the video. Okay, guys, so bringing up my Lightroom window over here, I always like to close up the tabs so I can see larger my working space. So this tutorial is for people that already have a little bit of a base for Lightroom. If you are a beginner in Lightroom, I am going to have a different course so you guys can learn from scratch what is Lightroom, how does it work, and how does it make our lives easier and better and happier. Yes, that is possible. More organized as well. But right now I'm going to jump into the develop module. I chose this photo because many times we take one when we're in a photo session and for some reason it gets underexposed. Or maybe you purposely underexposed it. In this case, I did purposely underexpose it because I used an ISO which was sensible. If you press I while you're in Lightroom, you're going to come up with the information for that photo. So here you can see that I took that photo. I have my copyright there, as well as how big the photo is. You guys have the original photo, so you can also check out how large that is. And you can also check, if you hit I once more, you can check the ISO setting. I take these photos with a Sony Alpha 7R3, and that's my camera of preference. I did find that it works better with the sensitivity. I usually try to stay in 1600 tops for ISO, but it really works very well if you go up to 3200 or even 64,000 if you're in extremely low light circumstance. Of course, you're still going to have that noise, but it really doesn't bother me that much. So this is why I underexposed it at 1600. So that being said, what am I going to do with this dark photo? Who wants a dark photo, right? Let's just turn on the lights over here. You're going to go to your develop module. And on the first tab, you're going to find the basic tab. So I want you to go over there, locate exposure, and I'm just going to turn on my little cursor here so you guys can see exactly where my cursor is in that really nice circle. So on exposure, you can go all the way to the top. I usually like to bring and push my photo all the way to the top just to see what type of information is there in the photo. I also like to go to the other side and see what happens. So now that I have analyzed and seen, okay, these are my darks, these are my highlights, this is the information that I have, you can see that really all the information is there, and this is why I always suggest to take your photos in RAW. So you can see over there that I just took a little tip that should come up and pop up on the right hand, which says RAW. I hope you guys see it. So RAW is going to give you really all the information that you need. If you see the format of the file that I gave you guys to download, it is .arw. So that this .arw is the format that Sony uses. If you use Canon, for example, it's going to be .cr2, and different types of formats are going to be used throughout different types of brands, but it's always going to be RAW, R-A-W, it's always going to be RAW. So there you're going to have your information. So I really want to turn on the lights. I don't want to go too far, but I do want to turn on the lights to see some information. My main objective with this particular photo is that I want to bring out the textures and the buildings for this urban landscape. This is in New York City, in Manhattan, and it was just about to become night. So there was that very blue, beautiful light hitting on the buildings, while the buildings were starting to turn on all of their yellow tungsten lights. So I really like the contrast between the cool blues and the warm lights, and that's how I'm envisioning this photo. This is how I want to bring out the magic in this photo. I want to bring the eyes of the viewers to the lights, but bouncing it back to the cools of the blues of the buildings. So now that I'm satisfied with where my exposure is, I definitely want to bring up some contrast. Contrast is going to make your blacks blacker and your lights lighter. So for now, I'm going to leave it right here. Okay. Now, I always, when I'm starting out and editing one photo, I always go to, first, my tab under Develop. I'm going to go to the tab down below where it says Lens Correction. So I open it up, and I make sure that Enable Profile Correction is on. What this is going to do, it's going to eliminate some of the distortion that your particular lens had. So Lightroom has a very intelligent and very complete database of almost all of the cameras and lenses out there. So what it does, it analyzes what is the error of margin that one particular lens has, that the one that you used, and it just eliminates that distortion. If I turn it on and off, you can see how it slightly eliminates the distortion and it makes the lines straighter. It's very subtle. All of the adjustments that we're going to do with Lightroom are usually, 80% of them are usually subtle, because subtle plus subtle plus subtle is going to add up into giving really that magic that we're looking for, to give that wow factor to your photo. Everybody can have that wow factor. It's just a matter of adding subtle adjustments to your photo. I also always turn on the chromatic aberration, and that's going to eliminate any errors that are in between the red, green, and blue plates of your sensor. So basically what that means is that when you take a photo, sometimes the red, green, and blue aren't completely aligned. The pixels aren't completely aligned, and there might be a tiny 1 or 2 pixel margin of error. What the chromatic aberration correction does is that it just desaturates that chromatic aberration. So that's going to give you a very nice and clean photograph, making you look very pro, which is what we all want. So now that the lens correction is done, I go to my detail, and for detail, I do like to zoom in at 100%, 1:1. So to make sure that you are 1:1 and you're not more, you open your left-hand tab and you go over here, and you can see exactly where it says 1:1. Right there, zoom photo to 100%. So when you are correcting your noise reduction, you definitely want to go 1:1, because or else it's going to be impossible to see. And what's going to happen is that when you do print this photo up and you want to print it, say 4 feet by 3 feet, then you are going to start seeing that noise that you didn't reduce at the beginning. So you always want to have as clean a photo as you can. So you want to reduce your noise. I usually go between 20 to 30, but you can definitely, as I've said before, go all the way and push it. If you do push it, you are going to end up with this very painterly-like effect, which is also nice, and if that's your intention, you can definitely go for that. My intention right now is to go actually just very sharp as I can, while I'm reducing the noise as much as I can. Yes, I love Annalisa Hill's energies. I love those claps. Keep those comments coming. So, Now that we have done the noise reduction over here, we just want to check and see, and I'm pretty satisfied because you always do want that little bit of texture that gives that noise. It reminds me of obviously our film days, and this is exactly where Lightroom comes from. So Lightroom is the version of Darkroom, only that in the digital world. So thanks Adobe for that, for giving us this Lightroom. Anything and everything that you can do in Lightroom, you can do manually in the darkroom. But thank God that we can just do this in a few minutes and we don't have to go all the way to a darkroom to expose these right now. So now that I'm happy with my noise, I'm going to go back to my basic corrections and I'm going to zoom out. You can use your key. Let me just silence this. You can definitely use your short key. That is Z. The Z is going to zoom you out, so you can also see that full photo on your frame, and just continue your way down. I'm happy with the highlights. I'm not going to adjust anything. With the shadows, I'm just going to wait for a second. Right now, my most immediate adjustment that calls my attention is that this photo is too cool. It's too blue. When I took the photo, the sunset was coming down. So I do want to share my vision of this photo when I was looking at it and add a little bit more dramatic, that feeling when I was there actually seeing the sun go down. So when the sun was coming down and it was hitting on the buildings, we did have that warm light hit on it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to my white balance, and that's right over here where my cursor is. And we're going to go and push the temperature towards the warm feeling. So if you go from cool, all the way to warm, you're going to really see how this photo starts waking up, how the lights start coming alive. And again, here's the difference between a cool photo and now a much warmer photo, while still having some coolness in the concrete of the buildings. So you definitely do want to have that play in between the warmth and the cold for this particular photo, because that's how I envisioned it. And for now, we're just doing one vision of this photo. There are unlimited ways to edit a photo, and I invite you guys to play around with it as well. The beauty of having a raw photo is that you can really push it to its limits. You can really bring out the details, the information that is there, and it's a very fun process. You can definitely do that afterwards. But for now, let's just learn how to bring up a photo which was extremely dark. Let's go back to our before. You can do backslash as the keyboard shortcut, and you can see our before. And then you can see how this photo really has started to become alive with the few edits that we've done. You can do all of these edits only in 3 minutes if you do them, and I did them before I did this tutorial in 3 minutes, but I'm really taking my time so you guys can appreciate every step that it takes to make that photo as amazing as it can be with that wow effect. And any photo can be done like this. It's just about bringing up those subtle adjustments. So now I'm going to go to tip number 2 to bring out this amazing texture, amazing 3D feeling of the buildings. We're going to go down and we're going to use, where it says presence, we're going to use texture, clarity, and dehaze. These are 3 of my favorite tools that we have in Lightroom, especially when we're doing urban photography. Because when we're doing urban photography, we're usually going to be finding a lot of elements that are concrete, streets, are grids, metal, very grungy and very sensorial elements that you want to feel them, you want to touch them, you want to bring them to your spectator. You really want your viewer to delve into the experience of watching this photo and feeling that you guys were really there when you took the photo. You want them to completely forget everything that they're thinking about and just focus on your photo. So these 3 elements, these 3 tools are really going to help us to do that. So I'm going to go back and press Z as in zebra or Z as in zoom to go all the way in. And now I'm going to augment my texture. You can go all the way just to see what effect it has, but I think that at around 34 is okay. Then clarity is going to give you that contrast between the mid-tones. So it's not really going to affect any of the darker or the lighter tones, just that mid-tones. But you can see how clarity really brings out those windows, those tiny rectangles of the windows. And dehaze is going to eliminate some of that white haze that the photo may have, because it's an urban landscape photography, and usually when you take photos to the city, there might be that small haze. Maybe it's contamination, pollution, you name it. It can be the clouds that were lower that day, fog, whatever it is. That dehaze is definitely going to help you bring out those blacks and that contrast in the midtones as well. So you can see only by doing those 3 adjustments how the texture of the windows and of the buildings are starting to come out. You zoom in at 100% only because you want to see the effect that is actually going on the photo. Once we're happy with it, maybe I just want to push it a little more and be a little bit more dramatic, but you do want to be careful, because if you do push it all the way, you start seeing artifacts and the pixels may start deteriorating. So you definitely do not want the pixels to start deteriorating too much. So I'm going to leave it at 64. The texture, I'm going to leave it at 34. Texture is going to give you sharpness. And the dehaze, I'm going to leave it at around 37. And just take a look by pressing the zoom out again, the Z, and see how this photo is starting to look. I do like how it's starting to look. I think that maybe the lights went a little bit too turned on. So I'm going to go to my second tab and I'm going to go to tone curve and darks, and just lower a little bit more the darks, because I do want to give that feeling that the night was falling. So night was falling, lights are turning on. I want to see what's going to happen if I turn on my lights. I start losing detail. If you take a look and I turn on, I go all the way up with the lights, I do start seeing that the detail is being lost in the lights. So I'm not going to go all the way. I might just turn it on a little. I'm going to leave it in around 15. Z for zoom, and take a look at the overall. I feel that the photo's a little bit tilted. So now that I have my tone curve where I want it, I'm going to go to transform. Again, we're in develop. The tab is transform. And Lightroom makes it very easy for us to adjust the lines. So I'm just going to click on auto. And this auto automatically is going to give me a nice straight line of the buildings. And again, I'm just going to toggle it off and on so you guys can see the difference. And it really took 1 microsecond for me to click on auto. Sometimes auto, it might grab an element that you really didn't want to grab it for the vertical. So you can go manually and just adjust it here and adjust it here. But in this case, I'm pretty happy where it ended. So I'm just going to leave it like this. I'm going to leave the transform like this. I do like this red color over here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to HSL. That means hue, saturation, and lighting. And I'm going to go to saturation. And you can see that it is separated by colors. So these are selective adjustments. So any adjustment that you do with the color that you select is only going to affect the color that you select. So in this case, I want to augment the saturation of the red for the New Yorker, and I can see how this red is subtly starting to augment, especially on this reflection of the building. And I like that because it gives it a pop of color that is not in anywhere in any other place of the photo. So I like that. So after I take a photo, I feel that there might be a little bit of light leak on this top left corner. So I'm going to go and press M as in mask, and I'm going to do a selective adjustment, a linear selective adjustment. You can do radial or linear, but I usually use linear. And I'm just going to drag my cursor right on top of this area, which I feel that has a light leak. Why am I adjusting the light leak? Because you want your spectators' eyes to go to the center of the photo and back to New Yorker, which is the focal point, because it's the only different part of the photo. So this is my focal points. This is where the eye of the spectator is naturally going to bounce to, but then it's going to leave by this corner, by this upper left-hand corner. And I don't want the eye of the spectator to leave, because then he's just going to lose interest in my photo. So I'm going to underexpose a little bit this area, and you can push it all the way down and you're going to see, whoa, no, that looks very weird. So I'm going to reset it and just go slowly down and say, okay, I think that over here it gives me a more balanced composition of how I envisioned this moment when I was taking the photo. And now you can really see how the eye of the spectator is going to bounce from New Yorker all the way to the buildings and then back to New Yorker, and you're just going to leave the spectator taking a look at this image for as long as possible as you can. I'm going to press again my shortcut for M, my keyboard shortcut of M, and it's going to hide the mask. And now I'm just going to think about how I like this photo. I'm going to see if it needs any other adjustments. So your keyboard shortcut to hide all of the elements in Lightroom is going to be Tab and Shift at the same time. And then let's just turn off the lights in Lightroom. And you can turn off the lights by tapping on L of lights. Once is going to bring it down to 70%, and twice is going to bring it down to 100%. So now I just usually take a look at this photo and feel it out. And maybe I want it to go a little bit warmer, so I can test out how it's going to look warmer. But overall, I think that it's a pretty good adjustments from where we were. I'm going to go to the before. So this is my before photo. When I took this photo, this is how it came out. You can take a look at your original photo and see that this is exactly how it came out. And if you do / keyboard shortcut, you can see the after, and the city really does become alive when you do all of the adjustments that we have done. I am just going to press L one more time to turn the lights on, and then go back to my develop module. I'm going to go a little bit warmer just to see if my intuition was right and if I did want to go a little bit warmer. Yeah, I do like it a little bit warmer. I'm going to leave it like this. Tab Shift. And this is the final image. So you can take a look at how my final image looks with the before and the after. You can definitely appreciate how we turned on the lights, how the warmth of the lights is of the buildings and the lights that are inside of the building gives it that special, nice and cozy effect that you really wish that you were inside and not outside. And you can just get lost forever taking a look at each and every of the million windows that Manhattan has to offer. So I hope that everybody enjoyed very much this tutorial, and that even if it's that you learned something as small as this, that makes it a success. And please do remember that if you did like this tutorial, to please subscribe as well as like the video. Share it with anybody that you think that might find it useful, and we will start with tutorials, live tutorials, starting on April 13th of 2020 at 12 p.m. and at 3 p.m. We're also going to have a version that is in Spanish, so just check back to see which are the schedules, and we'll wait for you and see you there. Bye everybody, thank you for joining. Remember, if you have any questions, you can send them either through this comments in the descriptions, or you can also send them to the email in the description below. If you have a photo that you'd like me to edit live, you can send it to the email that is below as well. And we'll be happy to take a look at it, and you'll have a chance to be featured on the live show. Thanks, bye!